Hey y'all, welcome to this week's show. Welcome to spring. Yes, spring has sprung. It is official. It has been now for a good week or so. I don't know. By the time you hear this, at least a week. We'll go with that. And boy, you can't miss it if you're in North Carolina. The pollen is insane this year. It is absolutely heavier than I have seen in a decade at least. And I mean, I know every year I complain about it, but this year, for some reason, everything kind of blossomed at once. The minute I saw the forsythia bloom, well, the pear trees were blooming too, those awful Bradford pears. The wisteria was blooming the same week as the pear trees. The pine trees started putting out their pollen the same week as the pear trees, and so did the dogwoods, and the azaleas have already started, and the red tips, the red buds, of course. I mean, everything just going at once. The magnolias. Okay, not the magnolias. I meant to say what's the name of that tree that you get in the sandhills of North Carolina? Is it the sand cherry? Yeah, it has shiny leaves like a magnolia. That's why I said the wrong thing. No, magnolias won't be out for a little bit. But the pollen is insane. I'm in the central part of the state, and I mean, it is like, it's laying like probably a tenth of an inch thick on the ground, and there's more coming down, and no significant rain expected for till the end of the week. So it is rough. It is rough. But it will be short-lived. And, pine pollen does have medicinal value. It's actually been shown to increase testosterone in men. Pine pollen is actually a food that if you're not terribly allergic to it, you can eat. You can put it in smoothies or pancakes or breads or muffins or whatever you like. But I am terribly allergic to it, so I cannot take advantage of that. A good alternative for me is nettle seeds, by the way, stinging nettle seeds. Oddly enough, the bugleweed isn't blooming yet, and the bugleweed is usually up during Lent. It's really weird. I don't know what the weather conditions were that caused this year, but everything that should have been like staged out for a month came in at once. And some of the things that are supposed to come early haven't even opened up yet. It's really bizarre. But that being said, the edibles are beginning to come in. Foraging right now, you should absolutely be either learning about foraging for spring wild edibles or doing it. The dandelions are up. The plantains are up. The henbit and ground ivy, and gosh, so many of them. And honestly, I think my book, the Spring Foraging Cookbook, is a fantastic resource for anyone wanting to learn to use all of our wild edibles. The sorrel's coming up, the docks. I've seen lots of dock. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of wild food out there. Haven't seen pokeweed yet, but I probably will within the next week. I mean, and all of these wild foods are just packed with nutrition, packed with, phytonutrients. They got more minerals and vitamins than any vegetable you're going to buy at the grocery store that's been just, soaked down with fertilizers and chemicals and overwatered. They grow nice and big and sweet, but they will never have as much nutrition as wild vegetables that still have that natural bitterness to a lot of them, or sourness to a sorrel or a dock. Gosh, I just in the past week I've seen chickweed. I can't even begin to count all the wild edibles that are coming in right now. So the thing is, you can absolutely learn to forage. Now this is how I got into herbal medicine when I was like in my teens. I love to go out in the woods and I love to bring back food, whether it's fish or mushrooms, right? I mean, I wanted to learn to live off the land. It was my big passion. And so I started learning about foraging, and that's actually how I got into herbal medicine. I had some folks who taught me, but mostly I learned out of field guides. This was pre-internet, this is pre-smartphone. We didn't have plant ID apps. We do now. There is really no barrier to keep you from foraging. Now, there are a few caveats and precautions. I'll get into those as we go. First of all, I would get a Peterson field guide. I like the Peterson field guides. The National Audubon Society's field guides are excellent as well. If you have both, fantastic, especially if you have them for your region. Peterson's always my go-to, though. I really like it. Thomas J. Elpel's Botany in a Day, that teaches you plant families, teaches you to identify the mints by having square stems and opposite leaves. You can find mint. Anybody can find nettles, trust me. Stinging nettles are going to sting you. If it looks like a nettle and it doesn't sting you, it's probably a dead nettle or a very valuable herb. Archangel, anyway, I can't remember the Latin name right now. Very, very valuable herb. But anyway, the field guides are great. If you live anywhere in the United States, and I think this is true of Canada and England and most, certainly Australia, just about anywhere people are listening to my podcast, you have universities with botany departments or agricultural departments. In those departments, you will have people who are absolute plant experts, and they publish local, regional field guides. Here in North Carolina, we have several good options actually, but University of North Carolina Chapel Hill puts out beautiful, full color, excellent field guides. It's about the only good thing I can say about the school. University of Georgia does the same thing. University of Tennessee does the same thing. I mean, I got a lot of places to choose from. Clemson, I got field guides for my region. I mean, I could fill a shelf full of them, and they were all just fantastic. 1, 2, 3 of those, wonderful to add to your shelf. And the reason I say get multiples, especially if they have photos, is because plants look different at different times of the year, especially depending on weather and soil conditions. And so if you just have a photo of a plant and you're comparing it to the plant in front of you, it may not look the same. It may look kind of similar. Kind of similar is never good enough. That's why I like the Peterson Field Guide, because it lists all poisonous lookalikes to a plant and tells you how to tell them apart. And Elpel's book does the same. And that's why I say start with those and then get some really good regional field guides. That's also sort of the issue with phone apps, plant ID apps. Several of them are fantastic. They're usually done by professional botanists, universities. Some of them are open source where people submit pictures and all that. But you take a picture of your plant with your phone, and it's got AI essentially is going to match it up with a picture. And probably 90% of the time, they're perfectly accurate. And I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, that's like generations worth of knowledge and experience in the palm of your hand. But like I said, it's 90% of the time. And that 10% of the time can get a little dicey. So I am all for using phone apps. Good, if they get good reviews as plant ID apps, all for it. But then just take that as like a starting point. You're saying, okay, I'm reasonably sure this is what I'm looking at. Now I'm going to open my field guide and double check. The phone app saves you so much time. You're not flipping through pictures. You're not going through flower shapes and leaf shapes. You can say, okay, this says it's Jerusalem artichoke. Well, okay. There are other members of the family that actually look a lot like Jerusalem artichoke. Let me double check this is Jerusalem artichoke. Okay, I'm going to go to the sunflower family in your field guide or Elpel's book, whatever, and I'm going to look and I'm going to find the characteristics. I'm going to double check and say, yep, this is a member of the sunflower family. And now I'm going to look and find the exact characteristics of Jerusalem artichokes, sunchokes, whatever you want to call them. Then you know for sure. So I like to use a phone app. I don't really use phone apps. Okay, if I have to admit, I've been doing this long enough that I don't use phone apps. But if I am talking with someone, if I'm introducing them to foraging, I say absolutely. If it's, a good one that isn't expensive, a lot of them are free, use that as a good starting point and then open your field guide. Now, there also, at least in America and Canada and most places, your county government will have, your state provides through your county, well, no. In each county, I should say, the state provides a extension agency. The extension agent is someone educated, is filled with people actually educated in plant identification, but usually they're there for the farmers. Okay, the main thing they're there for is tell them what weeds are on their property and how to eradicate them and how to deal with insects and all kinds of stuff like that. But usually at every extension agency, there's going to be a plant geek. That's another great resource. If you have state parks, national parks, so you have park rangers, there's going to be a plant geek on staff. There's going to be someone who loves to be outdoors, identifying plants, and that's why he got that job. Contact him, talk with him. You may be able to find just like a fantastic expert right at your fingertips, and they're usually just thrilled to share. And besides, your tax dollars pay their salaries anyway. They have to help you. I mean, really, if they don't, you can complain about them and they can get fired. So, they're going to help you. But those are the resources I would say use. If you know a good forager, go talk with them. Otherwise, the field guides are the best way to teach yourself. But with those plant ID apps, we can kind of shortcut things. And then you do have government agencies that have people that do this for a living. And it's great. Now, that also explains why I don't have pictures or drawings of plants in my spring foraging cookbook. Because it's not a plant ID book. It's a plant that tells you what's edible and how to eat it. And that's totally different, okay? This is a cookbook. You will go out, you will identify plants, and then you will bring them home, prepare them, and use my recipes. And for that reason, my book fills a gap that was sorely lacking. I mean, Yule Gibbons did that with Stalking the Wild Asparagus. Now, he was very limited in his culinary repertoire, let's say. He was a great writer. He'd write a lot about the plants. But, it wasn't really a plant ID book either. It was a book to encourage people to go out and start eating wild plants. And it was incredibly successful. Since then, there have been a couple. What was that? Mary Jo somebody. I'll have to get that book for you another time. I may even have a reference to it here in my book. If I do, I'll shout out. And I have 2 or 3, maybe 5. Bradford Angier would fall in that category. They're just a handful. And I do have some resources in the back of the book. If I can remember, I'll give you those titles as well. of cookbooks that came out really following Gibbons. And these were people who were good, foragers. Good. Angier was also, hunter, trapper, fisherman, and all that. I mean, a few people like that. But these were really plant-focused books, foraging-focused books. And following the success of his book, probably through the 80s, there were 4 or 5 really good wild food cookbooks. And, I collect those when I find them. I love to get new ideas. And but these are pretty well. I think these are all my original recipes. I'm a fairly good cook. I mean, my cookbook, my cookbook, The Omnivore's Guide to Home Cooking, has been rather popular, and people really, really love it. I mean, it's got great reviews. Not always, my books don't always get great reviews, because I'm pretty darn opinionated, and people take issue with that. I don't think they've ever had an issue with the information. Well, except in my history of Christian herbal medicine. Some people just hate Catholics. And when I quote a Catholic source, they just start screaming and ranting and cussing and usually call themselves good Christians. Not really sure about that. But, I just ignore those people. Unfortunately, Amazon will not remove their negative reviews. I mean, this is a perfect example of blatant anti-Catholic bigotry that would not be tolerated against Jews or blacks or Chinese or anybody else, right? But because, they hate Catholics, Amazon lets them stay, and they put bad reviews on my books. Sometimes it's not, Protestants, sometimes it's pagans. A lot of pagans just hate Christians in general. Me, I get along with pretty much everybody, you know that. I mean, I'm opinionated. I don't hold my tongue, but I got friends who are probably every race and religion on the face of the earth and treat each other with respect. But some people just so hate Catholics that they put negative reviews on my books just because I'm Catholic. And that's all there is to it. But anyway, The Omnivore's Guide to Home Cooking gets really good reviews. There's one, mildly negative review on the Spring Foraging Cookbook. It's just, this book has no pictures. Well, no, it doesn't. It's not a book on plant ID. It would be outside of the scope of this book. This is what to do once you've harvested the herb. The plant. This is not a book on how to identify. And I want to make that very, very clear. But with a phone app and a field guide or a friend that knows how to forage, and this cookbook, you're going to eat like a king. I mean, I'm not kidding. Speaking about people who know foraging, the Mormons are really big on that. It's kind of how they survived in the hard times when they moved out west, and then when they had to flee to Mexico during the lead up to the Civil War, they foraged a lot, and they still teach that. And my ex-fiance, who very sad story there. I won't get into it. Very, very sad story there. Her family did not approve, and things did not go well. But anyway, she was very knowledgeable on foraging and herbal medicine and everything homesteading. She kept quail and rabbits, and her mother didn't teach her to cook, though. That's the thing. I mean, it was really weird. Her mother was like, I'm the cook in the family, and I'm not going to teach my girls how to cook. Meanwhile, 2 of her sisters were married and had kids, and they didn't know how to cook. I mean, that was sort of the disconnect that was pretty common in that family. It was a bad situation. Anyway, when we got together, she's like, you eat like a king. And she's like, and you don't spend any money. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's my lifestyle. I mean, she was like blown away. Here I am, cooking French sauces and grilling trout and gathering, wild greens and flowers, edible flowers, and herbs and, baking bread from scratch and everything else I do, making sauerkraut and all this. And she's like, I've never encountered anybody that eats like this, and you don't spend any money. And I'm like, well, that is kind of the goal, actually. I mean, it's not only better for you, it's better tasting, and you don't buy a bunch of fast food garbage. Groceries for me are the outer, not the aisles, the perimeters. If I have to pick up a few, like some onions, and I don't have any coming in the garden, yeah, Um, just today, I got some cucumbers, nice little cucumbers coming in from like um, South Georgia, where it's warmer here because we're not going to have cucumbers for a few weeks. I'll do that. If I need some meat, I don't really like buying grocery store meat and fish, but I will. If I can't wild harvest it, and I don't have livestock, which I don't right now because of the situation with recovering from the hurricane and everything. Hit the dairy department because I don't have dairy animals, and I love milk and cheese and butter and all that good stuff. Only aisle I might go down is to pick up some flour, flour, sugar, olive oil, things I can't really produce myself. But yeah, I mean, it's been remarked by so many people. My friend Steve Cunningham, whole reason we got together and started collaborating on stuff was I said, you can feed a family of 4 for a week for about $10 if you do things my way. And he's like, that's nuts. How can you do that? And I said, well, start with get some chicken. If you're not raising that chicken in your yard, get a few chicken thighs for about $2.50, right? $3 maybe. Spend 5 on it. It's going to be your biggest expense. Roast it, save the meat, boil down the bones, make chicken broth, and put that in some lentils with an onion, some can of tomatoes, a few herbs and spices, and make some rice. And, I started going through these just really inexpensive meal plans, and, he was pretty darn impressed enough to have me on his podcast, and we've, been collaborating on things since then. But you're going to get, you reserve that chicken for another meal. You can make a chicken casserole for just maybe another 50 cents to $1. But you got lentils and rice and a nice soup. You got a chicken casserole, or maybe just make chicken salad, chicken sandwiches. Yeah, and this was before Bidenomics and inflation, so it was. Now I would say you can feed a family of 4 for a day or two on $10 easily, but when I was a kid, our food budget was $5 a week, seriously, and my mom cooked from scratch, and we ate very well. Now that was of course the 80s, so things have changed a little bit. But it's still very possible to save a whole lot of money if you eat wild foods. And as I always say, my great-grandparents, with one exception, that's a different story, probably misdiagnosis of breast cancer, actually, because there's a cyst issue that runs in that side of the family. She died younger, but all the rest of my great-grandparents that weren't killed in a war or something lived to be 190, say 92 to 105. That would be the average lifespan. And they were eating a huge variety of meats and fish and vegetables and everything off the farm and wild foraging and hunting and fishing and, I believe in diversity of diet. They didn't have cancer. They didn't have heart disease. They didn't have diabetes. They were actually strong and active well into their 90s. Very. Much more so than people are these days. So anyway, what can you expect in the Spring Foraging Cookbook? Well, I tell you how to cook with, a lot of foods. All right, I'm going to just kind of read through, and then I'll hit some highlights, because even the table of contents is 2.5 pages. Alfalfa. Yes, alfalfa grows wild. Amaranth. Angelica. Asparagus. That's right. Just like Yul Given said, stalking the wild asparagus. Large leaf aster, basswood or linden, black locust, bladder campion, brambles, blackberries, and raspberries. Briars, as we've talked about before. Briars are Smilax family, medicinal and edible. Bugleweed, bull thistle, burdock, calamus, caraway, cardamine, cattails, chickweed, chicory, cleavers, clovers, corn salad. That's an interesting one. I'll tell you a little bit about that one. Clintonia, comfrey, cow parsnip. Now that one I'm going to give you a few cautions on. Dandelion, daylily, dock, elder, erodium, evening primrose, false Solomon seal, Fireweed, forsythia, garlic mustard. That's one of my favorites. Glasswort, goat's beard, ground ivy, harbinger of spring, homewort, honeysuckle. Yes, there are edible honeysuckles, believe it or not. Some people would argue with me on that, but it's true. Horseradish, Indian cucumber, hyssop or hedge nettle, Japanese knotweed. One of those weeds everybody tries to get rid of. Japanese maple. Yes, the trees. The pretty purple leaf trees. Jewelweed or touch-me-not, kudzu, the hated kudzu, one of our most edible plants. Lady's thumb, lamb's quarters, mallows, marsh marigold, one of the few of that family. Milkweed, again, I'm going to have a few cautions on that one. Miner's lettuce, mints, morel mushrooms. I love them. Mustard, my favorite green, really. Nettles, Oregon grape, or pine, ostrich fern, and sometimes bracken, maybe bracken. We'll talk about that. Oxeye daisy, peppergrass, plantain, poke, another one of my favorite greens, and medicinal herbs. Phytolacca americana. Prickly pear cactus, ramps, my absolute favorite wild food. The ramp, the wild garlic or leek or whatever you want to call it. Red bud, love them. River beauty, rushes, salsify, saxifrage, shepherd's purse. Solomon seal. There's false Solomon seal, there's regular Solomon seal. They're both edible. That's an easy one. Sorrel, sow thistle, spiderwort, spring beauty, strawberry spinach, sweet Sicily, tansy. This one I have trouble pronouncing. Thalapsy, whatever. Thlapsi. Toothwort, trailing arbutus, twisted stalk, which is also can be mistaken for Solomon seal and false Solomon seal, and you don't have to worry about eating any of them. They're all edible. Valerian, edible valerian. Violets, watercress and mountain watercress, water leaf, water lily, wild geranium, wild grapes, wild lettuce and prickly lettuce, wild onions and garlic, wild strawberry, wintercress, wintergreen. To some extent wisteria, we'll talk about that a little bit, and to some extent yucca. Oh, okay. Wow, that's a lot, right? What is that? The psalm was, was that 100 plants? Probably not. 50? I don't know. I bet that's a whole lot more variety than you have in your diet right now. And every one of those has unique nutrients. They're all absolutely delicious, and they're all free. All it takes is time to get the knowledge to identify and get my book, the Spring Foraging Cookbook, and I'll tell you how to process them and cook them. I mean, alfalfa, usually use the sprouts on that one, make a nice salad out of it, put them in the seeds in bread. I'm going to kind of skip alfalfa because, most people, so the leaves are edible, I mean, the seeds are edible, the sprouts and all that. You're probably aware of those. You probably had alfalfa sprouts from the grocery store, so I'm not going to waste your time on that. But amaranth is an amazing family of plants. Wonderful spring greens that are just like spinach. You can eat them raw, you can cook them. And then the seeds were once one of the most important grains, pretty much displaced by modern grains, but they're still fantastic. I give you a recipe for beef and amaranth soup that is so much better than beef and barley soup, you will not believe it. Angelica is so good. You need to make sure, early in the season, poison hemlock and angelica can look similar. That's when you want to learn to identify and make sure of your identification. But the flowers can be breaded and deep fried. You can candy the roots. There's a little bit of an anise flavor. The tender buds and leaves go really well with eggs and sausage. Fantastic. I'll kind of skip asparagus because most people know what asparagus is. But asparagus is one of the oldest plants on the face of the earth, and you'll find it wild or escaped from someone's garden. I give you a great cream of asparagus soup recipe, obviously, and asparagus frittatas, and I love asparagus, and I give you some really good general rules for working with asparagus and asparagus-like plants. A lot of these wild edibles taste and have a texture very similar to asparagus. Large leaf aster. Excuse me, pollen's really getting to me. Really goes well in like chicken soup. yeah, the leaves. It's more of a, they eat it more in Asian countries, and the leaves just go really well with chicken broth. I don't know. It's nice. Basswood and linden flowers, fried as fritters, are an absolute delight. Same with black locust blossoms. Wow, bladder campion, just sauteed with a little olive oil, served with some meat, just delicious. Brambles, blackberries, and raspberries, obviously. I mean, berries are great. I'll give you some some nice recipes there. The briars, the greens, the leaves are, they taste somewhat similar to spinach, but with a little bit stronger flavor. They're a little tougher, but they're really delicious. They're very, they feel good between the teeth when you chew them. They have more texture, and there's a very, very mild flavor with just a tiny hint of wildness, I guess I would say. Just a tiny, tiny hint. Very, very good. We get into making root beer from the roots as well. Bugleweed, really interesting herb. I've given you the medicinal properties of it before. Usually just throw a little bit in a salad. It's a little bit bitter, the tops, but the roots can be tuberous and can be used for like potatoes. Tell you how to make fish cakes out of them and such. Bull thistle is another one that can look a little bit like the hemlock or water parsnip when it's small. So you want to be careful on that one. But yeah, it's very good. Now, it can also cause, for some people, contact dermatitis. So, it may be one you want to avoid, but it is very edible, and it can be a huge plant. And like the inner stalks and such are a major food source for Native Americans. Burdock, one of my favorite. Trout wrapped in burdock, just grilled right on the fire with little onions and lemony sorrel in there, salt and pepper to taste. Oh man, that's good. I mean, and I told you that recipe before, but it's really, really, really good. Candied dried calamus. That's you can. It's spicy. You can peppery. You can add it to a lot of, especially Asian dishes. I like doing that. Wild caraway. Give you a fantastic potato soup recipe using wild caraway and grated cheese. Oh, so good. Or putting it in with sauerkraut. Oh man, yeah, I give you my whole kraut recipe. Cardamom pretense, I should say. It's nice. Just a hand. It's also called cuckoo flower. I really like that. I kind of use it interchangeably with like watercress. Maybe put in with some egg salad. That's really nice. Especially, I like little anchovies in my egg salad. I know it's not to everybody's taste, but I think it's really good. Cattails. I mean, every bit of the cattails edible. In the spring, you get the shoots, you trim them, pickle them like cucumbers. Give you my pickle recipes for that. Chickweed is like the most mild green you can imagine. Anybody would enjoy chickweed. It's one of the first ones coming in, full of vitamin C, really good, like in omelets, tamales. Oh man, yeah, you can do a lot with it actually. And I give you some good recipes there, of course. Chicory, you're probably familiar with endive or endive in the grocery store. Wild chicory is not the improved version. But it's very good. I usually just throw it in the greens. I use the greens, and I'll throw it in with some dandelion greens and maybe a little garlic, crushed red pepper, salt, bacon, a little bit of white wine. Make some gnocchi. Use it as a sauce. Really good, really good. Cleavers. Let's see. How do I recommend using cleavers? Just wow. Let's see. It says, I'm just going to read for this one. I couldn't remember what I had said about it. Actually, it says, a lot of old stories say that cleavers are a favorite food for goose, so I thought it might pair well with roasted goose. But since I didn't have any of that on hand, I got some nice duck breasts in the freezer and cooked it up with some, wine and salt and pepper and some alliums. And good, very good stuff, Clover, red clover, battered and fried, really quite tasty. Corn salad is a very mild tasting green. It's sort of like chickweed. It's actually in the valerian family, but doesn't have the valerian smell. Really popular in England and parts of Europe. Not really known in the Americas, but our ancestors, when they came here, a lot of them did grow it in their garden. Um, Kind of has that, well, yeah, it just kind of has that chickweed, alfalfa sprout type flavor. It's actually quite nice. We're only still in the C's. I can't be doing this for 2 hours. Let's see how many minutes I am in the show. 33. All right, I'm gonna start just giving you the highlights. Some good recipes for comfrey. Absolutely, comfrey is an excellent vegetable. Regardless what some people say, I think it's very nice. Especially with summer squash or zucchini, a little oregano, thyme, wine, really nice. Cow parsnip, that's another one in the wild carrot family. You want to be sure of your identification. Yeah, let's see. Dandelions, of course. I mean, dandelion greens, fried in bacon fat, one of the best things there is. Daylilies, the blossoms and the roots are edible. The blossoms, literally each day you can pick one. Use them just like you would squash flowers. But the tuberous roots are like Jerusalem artichokes. Docks are fantastic. Docks and sorrels are both like lemony spinach. Docks usually a little tougher than the sorrel. Each of them are excellent cooked greens. Elderflowers, elderberry wine, um, gosh, stork's bill, rhodium, evening primrose is another one that has some nice tuberous roots. Really nice with like do them like mashed potatoes with fish or a pork chop or something. Fantastic. False Solomon seal, the shoots are asparagus-like. They can be just cooked up or pickled. I mean, however you like them. There are a couple types of fireweed. I talk about both of them. Forsythia blossoms, very bitter, but a few of them just used as a garnish or added to a salad are really nice. I mentioned garlic mustard, and this is considered an invasive herb. If you can find it, people actually pay you to pull it up and get rid of it. And it usually grows really thick, and it tastes like mustard greens and garlic combined. I think it's absolutely fantastic. If some began growing on my property, I would certainly not complain. I'll just put it that way. Glasswort is a really interesting one. It tends to be more coastal, makes really good pickles. Goat's beard is in the same family as salsify, and salsify is also known as oyster plant. It's sort of like the root's sort of like a parsnip that has an oyster-like flavor. Really odd, but I tell you how to use both of those. They're really delicious when prepared the right way. Ground ivy, put that in with henbit and chickweed and cornflower. I mean, just some of the very first herbs of spring. Very, very nutritious, and actually fairly popular as a food at one point in Wales. And so I give you a rarebit recipe, a Welsh rarebit recipe with ground ivy, using cheese and bread. And I mean, it's really quite nice. Harbinger Spring. We'll use the tubers on that one, yeah. And then the shoots are kind of, yeah, okay, just moving on. Honewort. That's another one that's in the wild carrot family. You got to be careful of your identification, but yeah, it's nice. Honeysuckle blossoms. Now, of course, you do want to make sure you've identified the right kind of honeysuckle, but a lot of people make syrups out of it, and even honeysuckle wine or infuse whiskey with it. I mean, it shouldn't nothing to be afraid of if used properly, and you make sure you get the right one. Horseradish, of course, wild horseradish. A lot of times it's horseradish that escaped from a garden. Oh man, I give you a fantastic recipe for my redneck kimchi using horseradish, and tell you how to just make the condiment like a horseradish sauce. Very, very good. Indian cucumber is another one. The well, it tastes a lot like cucumber. It has a nice crunchy texture. You can use it in salads or pickle it. It's really, really very nice. Let's see, I've got hedge nettle or hyssop. Um, oh man, got a couple good recipes there. Japanese knotweed is related to rhubarb. It's got a sour flavor, and you can use it in desserts and stuff. It's kind of nice. I mentioned Japanese maple. Yes, those little purple leaves are actually rather popular in Japan and presumably other Asian cuisines. Put them in salads. They have sort of a sorrel-like lemony taste, and they're really nice to include them in a jar of pickles, so to help keep your pickles firm, and they look really pretty in the jar. Very quite useful actually. You can cook them too. Jewelweed, touch me not. That young shoots can be done like asparagus. As I said, kudzu, the weed that ate the South. I mean, it has so many medicinal edible uses, it's ridiculous. But you can make jelly or wine with the flowers. You can cook the leaves. They're actually pretty rich in protein. The tube or the roots, which can be huge, you can get starch from them and use it any way you would cornstarch or anything like that. Even make candy with it. Lady Sum is member of the buckwheat family, and the leaves are nice in a salad, a little bit peppery as they get older. Basically, like a little bit spinach, but tastier. I'll give you an eggs Florentine suggestion with that one. Lamb's quarters, that is one that is like considered a horrible weed, right? Everybody wants to get rid of lamb's quarters or goosefoot or pigweed or whatever. Absolutely fantastic, mild, like amaranth. They both taste just like spinach, essentially. So I basically give you a cream of spinach soup recipe using lamb's quarters, and a couple other recipes here. Mallows. Mallows are nice, wild, edible. Usually just, toss some leaves and buds in a pan with some bacon fat and salt and just eat them as a pot herb. Really nice. Marsh marigold. I haven't really tried it a lot. I just give you a couple suggestions on that. How would I say it? It's somewhat toxic when eaten raw. Okay, so this is one you do have to cook, and I've played around with it a little bit, but I never really find it in large quantities. So, that one's just one that I give as a suggestion. Now, milkweed young shoots can be eaten again like asparagus. I give you a recipe for tender milkweed pods with tomato. Actually quite nice. Got to get it really early though, because it does develop a toxicity as it gets older. But these young milkweed pods are very much like okra. So if you like okra, they're pretty good. Miner's lettuce is just like super mild, really nutritious. It's a no-brainer there. Mints, there's so many mints, and I give you several mint recipes for more like savory dishes because people think of it as sweets, right? Very delicious. Give you a nice ratatouille, eggplant parmesan. That's one of my favorite ones to use mint with. Morel mushrooms. It's the only mushroom I mentioned in the book because it's so easy to identify. They're coming in the spring and relatively safe. You do need to cook your morels. There is apparently 1 or 2 records of someone having a bad experience with morel. I think one guy actually died, and they think probably he had mixed in some poisonous mushrooms with the morels, but any way you look at it, they weren't well cooked. And anyway, 99.9% of the time, morel mushrooms are considered perfectly safe and almost always safe when cooked. Some people do have certain, sensitivities, but I certainly don't hesitate to eat morels. And I mean, people are out in the woods just gathering like crazy in the mountains in the spring, and everybody just, eating pounds of them, and nobody's getting sick. So I don't really know what happened in that case, but it actually was a friend of mine in a different state in Colorado. So, definitely follow all precautions listed with morels in your field guide. There are 2 poisonous mushrooms that can look a little like morel, but side by side, I can't see how you could confuse them. Really, I could not. And if they're cooked, I'm not going to worry about it. But, I don't know what happened there. I have no idea what happened there. But I'm just going to, I'm going to say 99.9% of the time, nobody has an issue with it. And I mean, I can find very, very scant records of anyone else even having an issue with it. But I don't know. Mustard. Wild mustards are the same mustards as you grow in your garden. They're just not the improved varieties, and they are fantastic. And I tell you how to, cook the greens, of course, but also how to make the condiment out of the seeds. Just one of I love mustard greens. I love mustard as the condiment. I'm a big mustard fan. Nettles, of course. Nettles in soups and such in spring in Europe have been a tradition going back thousands of years, and they are so good for you, so nutritious, just fantastic. Oregon grape. I really do enjoy the berries. They're bitter. You got to learn how to use them, but you can make some nice jams and jellies and wines out of Oregon grape berries. We got orpine. Orpine's a succulent. It's tell you how to make some nice. What was this? Is this the one I did the fajitas with? Maybe not. Anyway, I did do a Mexican recipe with that. Yeah, with Mexican red rice and guacamole, refried beans. Yeah. We did the fajitas on that one. Ostrich fern and bracken. For fiddlehead ferns. For centuries, forever, people ate bracken ferns. Now they say they may be slightly carcinogenic. Well, ostrich ferns are not, and they're just as delicious, and they're actually larger, and you can learn to find them and cook them like asparagus and enjoy them. And oxeye daisy, that's one you use more like an herb for flavor. You don't really eat that one straight. A peppergrass, really nice to make marinades and sauces out of. Plantain, the medicinal plantain, also quite edible. You can use it as you would any mild pot herb. Poke, Phytolacca, my favorite. I love my poke salad and my poke shoots. I've talked about that many times. Prickly pear cactus, grill it up and make tacos out of it. Fantastic. Ramps, my favorite wild edible. Of course, I give you my ramp pesto recipe. I give you my French onion style ramp soup recipe. Wow, really just and it should be coming in the next couple of weeks. Usually starts coming in around Easter. It'll be with us for about a month. You got to harvest it while you can. Red bud I talked about a couple of weeks ago. The flowers taste like sweet garden peas. River Beauty's another asparagus-like one. Talked about rushes, and they have many. I'm not going to get into all the uses of rushes right now. There are another ones sort of like cattails. You can do a lot with them. Salsify, that's the one that root tastes like oysters. So I give you a nice oyster stew recipe to go with it. You can really oyster up your oyster stew by adding salsify to it in place of potato. Saxifrage and swamp saxifrage are nice mild green, sometimes called a lettuce. Shepherd's purse, it's more like mustard or dandelion. It's very nice. Solomon's seal, again, like asparagus or pickled. Sorrels, they taste like spinach with lemon juice on them. And I often use them in place of lemon in the woods if I don't have any citrus. Sow thistle, looks a lot like dandelion, but more tasty. Everybody loves sow thistle. If you try it, it's just fantastic. There's no bitterness on sow thistle. Well, just maybe a hint, but not like dandelion can be. I'll give you some recipes for spiderwort, believe it or not. And I know a friend of mine uses spiderwort herbally all the time. I usually end up eating it. Quick blanch in boiling water, and it's a nice one actually. And I give you some recipes for spring beauty. That's another one that has a tuberous root. Strawberry spinach, you might know that one for your garden. It's like lamb's quarters, super mild spinach like. Sweet Cicely, that's like a chervil. It's a really nice culinary herb. Tansy, I gave you few precautions on that because it can have some toxicity, but it's been used in recipes going back to ancient Greece. I mean, it is useful. Field pennycress, that's the one I can't pronounce, phylapsy or something. It's really a wild mustard, essentially. Toothwort, wow, I am so running out of time. Trailing arbutus, twisted stalk, that's another one we can use like asparagus or pickle it, and edible valerian, just like I said about lamb's lettuce, just go with that. Violets, candied violet flowers and jellies, that's nice. Watercresses and mountain watercresses, you got to make sure the water's clean. You don't want to get liver flukes. Probably better off growing it in your garden, just because you don't know what's upstream for you. But if you can get it clean, it's delicious. Peppery, put it on, egg salad sandwich, just really, really good. Water leaf, what did I give you? Italian style soup using water leaf, water lily, wild geranium. Wow. I mean, I wish I'd had this book as a kid. It took me almost 40, it was 33 years to learn all this. Wild grapes, and on this we use the leaves and do stuffed grape leaves because it's spring foraging cookbook, and that's when they're perfect, and also really good pickled. Wild lettuce and prickly lettuce, good pot herbs, a little bitter, but they're full of nutrition. Wild onions and garlic. Yes, the wild onions that are growing in your yard that you smell every time you cut the grass. Those are useful, edible, and delicious, and really, really good for you. And of course, wild strawberries. Yeah, those are fantastic. Wintercress is another one, like a mustard. Wintergreen. That's not really a spring plant. It's around all the time, but you can make some really nice teas out of it and candy flavorings and such. Some people do batter and fry wisteria flowers. I'm allergic to wisteria, so I don't, but I put that in as a suggestion. Yeah. And then as far as yucca, I just really point out that while yucca does have some edible properties, like that, in the spring, you'll start to see this pink stalk growing up out of it. That is actually edible, but it's a little soapy tasting. I just mainly wanted to point out that that's not the yucca root you may see in the grocery store. That's actually cassava or something. Two totally different plants. But yeah, I would consider yucca more of like a survival food because it's not very tasty. The flowers, the white flowers, they'll come a little bit later. Also edible, but again, they have sort of a little bit of a soapy taste. So anyway, so the vast majority of plants in this book are absolutely delicious, and it's going to give you so many recipe ideas and hopefully really inspire you to get out there and become a dedicated forager. To me, it really fills a gap that was missing in foraging books. And yeah, I mean, I would buy it myself had I not written it. So I hope you will. Go get it on Amazon and leave me a good review if you don't mind, because positive reviews really do help sell books. Negative and neutral reviews really hurt sales, and I wish people wouldn't leave them if they don't have a legitimate criticism. I'm always open to a legitimate criticism, but so many of the bad reviews are just people being nasty for no reason. That's just our culture, our modern age. Y'all have a great week. Go out there and eat some wild food, and I will talk to you next time.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, do your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.